What's up guys, welcome back to the channel and another video. We are just out in a little kind of mountain, very small little mountain stroll, and we actually wanted to touch on something today which we believe is probably the most important thing when it comes to taking photos and getting good photos. Also, we almost have a completely full moon and the sun is going to be setting pretty soon. I love taking photos of a moon, especially when it's like daytime and you can still clearly see it. It just looks cool, and that's what I'm about to do. So that one thing that I'm talking about that I think pretty much makes or breaks your photo is composition, because if you don't get your composition right, all your settings can be right, everything can be really sharp, but the photo just normally looks kind of off. It just kind of ruins what might be a good photo, and that's why I think it's one of the most important things. If you nail the composition, get a really nice composition, you can kind of get away with all the other settings not being perfect, or at least I think so anyway. And what I'm trying to do now is get a shot of this moon, and there's just a tree which is kind of like leaning to one side and kind of like arcing over the moon. I don't know if this is going to be a perfect example of great composition, but I'm going to try and frame the moon with the tree kind of like hanging over it a little bit, which hopefully should make for a good composition. So there are a few things to consider when you're trying to line up a composition, and the rule of thirds is one of them, and it's something that you can actually turn on your camera, and it just makes composing a photo a little bit easier, at least we think. And there's a few examples I can think of offhand. For example, the one that Christina actually took of me at the north coast, where I'm standing right on like the right hand third, and then we have the sea and the little kind of island in the distance towards the left hand side. It's just a nice way, and it tends to always look pretty good. If you're not sure how to frame something, kind of put your subject on like either third of the screen and it should normally look pretty good.
Got that on camera. Chris is just trying to take a photo of me up here, trying to get the moon in the background. So another thing that we like to look for when we're framing a photo is what I was going to say what we call, it's not what we call.
It isn't.
It's what is called leading lines. And that is using the natural lines in the frame to kind of lead up to a subject. So it could be straight parallel lines, it could be like a path going somewhere, just using the line to draw your eye somewhere, usually to the subject that you're trying to take a photo of. I can't think of a few specific examples right now, so I'll pop a few on screen of times that we've used this little method.
Right, I'll give you a quick example. So we're on a little path here. Let's say you were to, I'm not sure if this is exposed properly or not, but let's say Christina was to walk right up there, quite far up, and I was to then, right, turn around. So technically now I have the leading lines of the path on each side leading towards my subject, which would be Christina, or it could be something else, but just an example, using those lines to lead towards your subject. That makes sense?
Now, you might have heard this one before, but it's just a fact when it comes to photography, and that is that angles are key. So that means basically just getting low, getting high, changing the angle, and the reason why this works so much is because you're changing the perspective of what you would usually see with your eye. So you don't usually see from down here at this angle, and it just always looks so good. So changing up the angles, whether that be going up here or going down low, it just will always give your photo just a different perspective, and that will always probably look good.
This is definitely my favourite time to be out. Not like at the start of golden hour, but like right at the end, kind of before you get like blue hour. I don't know if there's a name for that transition or not, but yeah, pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, like we were talking about angles. So obviously when you choose what kind of angle you want, or when you're choosing what angle you want to compose your photo with, you need to really pay attention to the lighting, because you don't want to make a shot where, say for example, you're taking a portrait of someone and the light's just hitting them straight on, because it's going to look really flat and there's going to be like no depth in it. So whenever you're composing a photo and you're messing around with your angles, make sure you pay attention to what way the light is hitting whatever it is your subject is. For example, that mountain over there, I don't know if you can see it or not, but the lighting is hitting it from an angle now, and it just looks really nice, whereas like if it's hitting it straight on, just doesn't look as nice. So pay attention to that when you're taking your photos. I'm away.
Where are you going?
This way. Look at that moon though. How epic is that? As nice as it is getting really cold. We've got no sun anymore, and it's not summer just yet. Are you cold?
Yes.
You taking a photo of me?
Sir. Okay, I know it looks nice, but it is cold.
It is freezing.
Once the sun goes away, it just drops in temperature completely.
This lighting is pretty fantastic though.
But another thing that we like to do when it comes to framing our photos is using foreground elements. So basically using something in the foreground to blur past or shoot past, and it just adds a nice little extra touch to your photos. You don't need to use this in all of your photos, but it definitely does add some interesting elements and adds a little bit of depth too, and it just always seems to look good.
That moon is just fantastic.
No, look at the sky. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
the sky and the moon combo. Trying to frame a shot with that moon, but yeah, I don't know. I literally can't find a composition.
Where's the
I
moon?
can't find a composition,
Oh, there
which
it
is a little bit embarrassing, seeing as we're talking about composition. But there is one more point that we want to touch on, but it's too cold, so we'll talk about it when we get back.
Okay then.
Too cold.
Okay, so it is actually the next day. We were gonna finish this video at home, but the weather's still nice, so we thought we would make the most of it.
It does get a little bit boring filming a lot of stuff inside, so yeah. So there actually is two more things that we wanted to just mention when it comes to composing your photo, and one of the most important things, which kind of covers almost everything we've talked about, is balance. You want to make sure that when you're lining up a composition that the whole thing is just balanced. You don't have a lot of random space on one side that just makes the photo feel a little bit off. You want to make sure that the elements of your photo are balanced and that when you look at it, it just seems like it kind of flows nicely.
Yeah. And that kind of leads on to the last point, which is removing distractions, which I feel like this is a lot of you do this a lot of the time when you're composing photos. You kind of look for that minimal style.
Yeah, I really like, especially, and it can be hard to do when you're doing like nature and landscapey photos because you can't move things, so there's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, like you just don't want random things kind of sticking in at the corner of your frames, which is just going to take away from your subject, and yeah, like Christina said, just be a little bit distracting.
So yeah, try and keep distractions out of your photo. The whole point of your photo is you want to draw your eye to something, to your subject. So get rid of the things that kind of distract you from doing that.
So that's kind of all the points that we want to touch on when it comes to what you should maybe be thinking about when you're composing your photo. And now we just want to kind of bring up a few photos that we've took and explain a little bit what we were thinking when we took them and why we think it works. So the first shot is actually a shot in was that our latest photo vlog? I believe it was.
Yes.
We were on a little mountain track, it was sunset, and it's the shot of this rock which was just sitting there. We had the mountains in the background, the road going through in the distance. I framed this one with the rock being on the right third of the shot, and then it obviously in focus, and the background was quite kind of out of focus, but the road is just leading away in the distance, and we have the mountains coming in. It was a pretty minimal shot, but if I had to put the rock in the center, I think it would have just looked kind of weird looking.
Yeah.
It's just a case of the rule of thirds kind of coming into play, and I use it a lot when taking photos like that.
And here is a few more examples of that. This one being a photo of me that Chris took on the beach, but this time I'm on the left third of the photo, and it kind of works, especially if you take your photos in landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't really do this when you're taking, well you can, but it's a little harder to do
trickier, yeah.
when you're taking photos vertically because you just don't have as much room to play with. When you're taking them in landscape, there tends to be a lot of like open space in the photos, and if you have your subject in the middle, a lot of the time it can just look weird, like I said.
Yeah.
There's also a little bit of foreground in this one because we have the grass all kind of around me and Christina's kind of in the grass or just past it.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of that foreground aspect as well, and yeah, just place Christina on the left third, and pretty kind of simple shot, and I think it looks good. The shot I actually took earlier in this video of the mountain with the two trees is, I don't know exactly how to explain what I was thinking when I was composing this, but I wanted to frame the mountain between the two trees and not have the trees like kind of on the same level. I wanted to have one a little bit closer, so the way I angle the shot, I have the tree that's closest to the camera looking a little bit bigger, and then the other tree is like slightly further away, and then we have the mountain in between. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to explain that one, but that's what I was thinking when I was taking it. I wanted to frame the mountain, obviously it being the main subject, but kind of frame it with the trees, if that makes sense.
And just to show you something different that's not a landscape style photo, this is a photo that we actually took of our Fuji X-T30, and it's a good example to show that we think of all of these things no matter what type of photos we're taking. So whether it's landscapes, product style photos, whatever type of photo we take, we always have these things in mind. And this photo is a good example because we kind of had to compose this shot basically from scratch. We had to add in all the different elements to frame it and make it look nice. So we actually tried a few different things with framing this shot. It was actually in one of our photo vlogs. If you've seen it, you might already know. We felt like if there was too many things in it, the distractions came into play. So we wanted to keep it a little bit more minimal. So the boots were added in there just to balance out the frame, and I think it just looked really good.
Yeah, if the boots were away, the whole lower portion of like the right lower corner would have just looked empty and didn't really make sense. Yeah. And then with the tee and stuff, we used the strap of the camera to kind of wrap around the tee, which just looks kind of nice. And the whole idea with these photos is to kind of make it look natural, like you just came home, sat your camera down, you're just home from a hike or whatever it is, and it just looks kind of natural, like that's where your camera might sit.
I think this photo kind of gives that feel to it. Anyway, we have some more examples for you, but let's take a little walk first.
It's
and then
getting it's getting a little bit windy.
No.
I think it might rain, but hopefully not. You'd be pretty good at hide and seek. Christina's trying to hide.
I was trying.
But you failed.
I was trying to see how long it would take for you to realise if I had been kidnapped. The answer is a long time.
That's what you get for hiding. Okay, so this next photo, back to the landscapes again, is probably one of my favourite photos, if not maybe my favourite since we started doing this kind of more nature landscapey style of photos. I think it's just a well composed photo, if I do say so.
Kind of has a combination of things.
Yeah, so the idea with this one was obviously the main subject in this is the mountain, but after that it's kind of the whole scene. I wanted to include the little path which was not really leading to the mountain, so it technically isn't really a leading line, but I wanted to include it because it made the whole scene look pretty good. I wanted to make sure I was zoomed far enough out that I could get that in the shot, and then we also have kind of the row of trees on the right hand side, which I think fills that side nicely because the mountain is kind of on the left third, and if those trees hadn't been on the right hand side, it would have been very kind of bare there wouldn't have been too much going on, but I think those trees and the nice kind of brown grassy area fills that in a little bit and adds a little bit of interest to that side. And then on the other side we have the tree with the little branch hanging over, which I did want to make sure wasn't over the top of the mountain, which I think would have been quite distracting and annoying looking, and that's kind of how I framed that shot. I don't know if that really helps at all, but that's what was going through my head. I wanted to get all them elements in it without it looking a little bit one-sided or not balanced like we were saying before.
So here is a photo that we took on the north coast when we went on a little trip up there. We were on this really nice coastal path that went all the way around the edge of the cliffs. It was just so cool. So instead of shooting over this fence, we decided to shoot through it so you could kind of capture the fact that it was a fence. And I think that added a nice little element to this photo. We thought we would shoot through it, add that foreground element in there, and it just looked really good. Another photo that Chris actually took here, it is the photo of the little boat that was going along as we were walking along this cliff. And what Chris did is he used the path and the fence that you could see on the edge of the cliffs, and he led our eye to that boat right at the end of the path, and it just was very well timed, very well captured.
Yeah, I literally waited there for like a few minutes to that boat pass because I seen the shot before it happened.
And then once the boat got right into position, snap, photo taken. Looks good.
I think it turned out kind of cool. And that's pretty much it. We are learning every time we go out and take photos, so like this whole process doesn't just come completely natural, but over time and the more we take photos, we're not thinking about each individual thing every time we take a photo. You kind of like see the scene and you kind of can tell what's not right and what you might need to change. So yeah, the more you shoot, the more it kind of becomes natural to see a shot and compose it probably a little bit quicker than you might at the start.
So hopefully you find these tips on composition helpful. Try them out next time you're going out and taking photos. And another thing to mention is that they also do work with videography too. So if you're a videographer, you can also use those tips to get nice shots.
Good point. Yeah, so if you're looking at other people's photos, just pay attention to the way they've composed stuff, and then whenever you're trying your own photos, maybe try something similar and you'll just learn every time and get better at it each time. But it is getting a little bit cold and I'm pretty sure it's gonna rain, so that's pretty much it for this one though. Anyway, I think if you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. It does really help us out because we are a small channel.
Make sure and hit that subscribe button too if you want to see more videos, and we have some more photo vlogs coming too, so look out for those.
As we always say, take it easy.
Don't be a stranger. Bye!
More birds.